Well, welcome to H360 Health Talk, and joining me today is Scott Prendergast from Minding Your Mind, which is an organization based in Philadelphia that fights to eliminate the stigma associated with mental illness. Scott, thanks for joining me today. So tell me a little about your organization, Minding Your Mind. Tell me about that, how it got started, and what your role is there.
Yeah, so our organization, as you said, our goal is to destigmatize mental health. So essentially meaning all that negativity, all that hush-hush that we think of when we hear about mental health, we want to break those barriers. We want to let people know, especially students and parents, that we're here to let their kids know it's okay to talk about it. And so we do this by having young adult speakers such as myself come into different high schools, different middle schools, and different colleges all across the country, sharing our own personal story in dealing with mental health. So that's my primary goal, and my primary role with the organization is one of the young adult speakers. And it's something that I do every single day. I was actually today speaking before I came here as well. So it's a really interactive job where I get to see kids from all over the country, which is great. And as far as it got started, we began in 2008. So we're in our about, 11th year at this point. And we began from Stephen Erblum. He created the organization as a way to just help people talk about mental health and not have it be this thing that people always keep in the dark and don't want to bring any light to. So that's why he started it, and we've grown to offices in Philadelphia, in New Jersey, and also in Massachusetts as well.
So I have a lot to talk about here because one, my daughter has a lot of videos on Healthio360 talking about her challenges with mental illness. She suffered from depression in high school. It stemmed from cyberbullying. And kind of led from there. And so I'm wondering, and at her school, I don't ever recall her ever saying, hey, somebody came in and talked to us. Somebody like, Minding Your Mind, a representative came in and talked to our school. How is your message received at the school level?
I know personally myself, almost every time that I speak, I'll either have a student on social media or a teacher or a counselor reach out to me saying how they resonated with the story. And I think what makes us so authentic and so unique is that we have students, and not only students, but also people such as myself, who dealt with these issues firsthand and who are still dealing with these issues. So when I'm sharing my story, I'm really connecting with someone who's going through it right now. I'm not just reading from a textbook. I'm not just up here saying these are the signs, these are the symptoms. I'm saying to the kids, hey, I know exactly what you're going through because I was there too. And that's why we're so authentic, and the message is able to really be received well by students and teachers as well. Because it's not just obviously for students, although that's our main primary audience, for teachers as well, and also parents is something. So when we have going to schools, a lot of times people will be a little on edge thinking, oh, if we talk about mental health, maybe that's not a very good thing, right? That's a little touchy subject. But then afterwards, it's always, wow, I'm so glad we did that. These kids are so engaged, and they really give fantastic feedback, and people feel as if I'm telling their story when I'm up there, which is a huge thing, and it makes me feel really good.
Yeah. I'm probably a year or two older than you are, and I remember as a kid, the discussion about cancer was exactly what we're talking about here. No, whenever the family would get together, whether it be a holiday or a summer party, and somebody in the family had cancer, the adults would kind of go off to the side. Nobody would even say the word cancer, right? Oh, Uncle Charlie has the C. Well, what are you talking about? The C.
Yeah.
And I think we've come a long way in the world of cancer from bringing that discussion from the back room to the front room. And I think it's people's willingness to talk about it, to understand it, to try to put the mechanisms and things in place to control it. Are you seeing, when you go into a school, are you seeing if you could kind of categorize maybe grade school, middle school, and high school. Are you kind of talking to all of those venues, or are you at the high school level or one in specific?
Yeah, so I actually talk to all of the different levels. I'll go as low as, usually 5th grade is the lowest we go, just because when we get a little younger than that, sometimes the attention span's not there and the kids aren't 100% ready for it. So as low as 5th grade, all the way up to seniors in college. So we're talking from 10 years old to 23 years old, and we talk all in between. And I find that with my personal story, I'm able to resonate with each and every different one of the audiences because I can change it in a way that they relate to it a little bit more. And when I'm speaking to 7th graders, I change up what I say a little bit as opposed to if I'm speaking to 21-year-olds in college. The story is the same, it never changes, but what I emphasize and what I really focus on changes a little bit in order for me to relate to the audience that I'm speaking to.
So Scott, what is your personal story?
My personal story is for years I suffered with depression throughout high school and the beginning of college, and I never wanted to accept it. I always used to say, oh, that's not me. That happens to other people, I'm fine. And I didn't acknowledge it. And it got to the point where I was barely even able to get out of my bed in the mornings. All I could ever focus on was that negative self-talk in my head, and it totally overtook my life. And I couldn't have any joy at all because all I could focus on was this depression all the time. And so it wasn't until I was a junior in college a few years ago that I found out, hey, I need to get some help. I need to change how I'm thinking. And I was able to start reaching out to my parents, to my older sisters, and just talking about mental health, talking about, hey, this is what I'm going through today. And that made me feel so much better. And because of that, then I was able to figure out more about different coping skills and different mechanisms to help myself when the depression symptoms kick in. But it all began with me making a choice that I wanted to talk about it, that I needed some help.
It's taking that first step. And I would imagine that everybody's first step does not look the same, right?
Definitely.
It's what level, if it's depression, what level of depression, how open are people talking, willing to talk about it? It sounds like you reached out to your family, your sister, your parents, and they welcomed the conversation, or, what does that very first step look like?
Yeah, so it's honestly different for everybody. For me personally, the first step, and I think for a lot of people this can relate to, is acknowledgement. Because in today's day and age, even though we've come so far with the discussion of mental health, a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And a lot of people say, oh, that can't happen to me. I don't want to be defined by that. I don't want to be part of that stigma. And they don't acknowledge it. So I acknowledged that there was an issue, and that was my first step. And when I speak to different students, I always say, hey, if you're not acknowledging it, how are you going to overcome it? And that goes for anything in your life. Imagine you're looking at this roadblock in your life. And if you just keep looking at it and you don't do anything, how can you overcome it? So for me, I always tell everyone, number one, and I actually have this in my presentations, is acknowledgement is the first step. Now after that, it can be a little bit different, especially when we're talking about depression, which is what I suffered from. It's something that is different for a little bit of everybody. It's not just one box that says depression. This is how you treat it. Some people need medication. Some people go to therapy. Some people need both. Some people need neither. And it really depends on the case. It's a case-by-case thing as opposed to just putting it in this box and saying, well, this is how you treat it. And I think that's something as a society we need to do better on, realizing each case is different and unique.
Well, Scott, thanks so much for joining me today. I think you're making a difference in a lot of people's lives, so keep up the great work. And I hope you come back on H360 Health Talk and keep us informed on your new website and things that you're introducing into the services that you guys offer. So thank you very much.
Of course, thank you for having me.